Great. Thank you very much. Okay, so welcome everyone. Thanks very much for being here today. My name's Kate Shuttleworth. I'm with the Public Knowledge Project, and I'm really pleased to be here today to introduce some new online courses on scholarly communication or open publishing that are being offered in partnership between SFU Library, SFU Publishing, and the Public Knowledge Project. I'm going to start us off today by giving a brief introduction to the courses, talk a little bit about the logistics for registering and what you can expect, and then I'll be turning it over to our three course instructors who will share some additional details about the courses. So you'll get to hear a bit about the content they'll be teaching, the structure of the courses, and so on. And we'll have lots of time for questions and answers at the end. With that said, please go ahead and use the chat or the Q&A feature in Zoom for your questions. You'll notice that your microphone and cameras are turned off, so we invite you to engage with us through the Q&A and the questions. We'll save the questions until the end, but we invite you to add them anytime you think of them. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and give a brief introduction to the course series that we'll be talking about today. So this is 3 new online scholarly communication courses being offered, again, in collaboration between SFU Library, SFU's Master of Publishing program, and the Public Knowledge Project. Registration is now open, and we're inviting folks to join us and enroll. The courses are open to SFU students, as well as to continuing education or non-credit students from around the world. And I'll share more details about the registration process and the steps you can take and who is invited to enroll in a few slides. These courses are online and asynchronous. This means that they are self-paced with deadlines set throughout the term. You can expect weekly readings and video lectures. You'll have assignments throughout the term and at the end, and you'll connect with your course instructor and other students through various online forums. Offering the courses this way means that we're able to offer enrollment to folks in different time zones around the world without needing to schedule classes that everyone attends at the same time. You'll be expected to work through the course materials on your own time while meeting those weekly deadlines for reading, discussions, assignments, etc. So a little bit about each of the 3 courses. These start in January and May, depending on the course. So the first course is Pub 611, Making Knowledge Public. This is being taught by Dr. Juan Pablo Alperin, who we'll hear from in a moment. Dr. Alperin is Associate Professor of Publishing in the Publishing program at SFU. He's co-director of the Skullcom Lab and Scientific Director at the Public Knowledge Project. The focus of this course is the public value of scholarship and societal engagement, and this course is running from January to April 2026. The second course is Pub 604, Technologies and Infrastructure for Academic Publishing. This is being taught by Alison Moore, Digital Scholarship Librarian at SFU Library. The focus for this course are the systems, standards, and platforms for sustainable academic publishing, and this course is also running January to April 2026. And finally, we have Pub 603. This is Journal Management and Editing. This is being taught by Jennifer Zerkee, Copyright Specialist at SFU Library. The focus is on editorial workflows, peer review, copyright, open access, and just generally the management of academic journals. This course will run from May to August 2026. So a little bit about the context and the background for offering these courses. They are designed to be taken together as a series or individually. You can see from the course titles that individually they address the publishing infrastructures and technologies, editorial and managerial work of starting, running, and managing a journal, and the role of scholarship as a global public good. When taken together, these offer a solid and practical overview of the scholarly publishing landscape in general, from the institutional and societal context of publishing to the editorial practices that uphold its quality, to the technologies that enable the dissemination and preservation of scholarship. They are designed to foster practical learning alongside critical reflection, and they bring students, researchers, and practitioners into dialogue together about the future of scholarly publishing. So again, the advantage of offering these courses to folks from around the world means that we can bring in various perspectives and backgrounds. So I mentioned the collaboration between these 3 SFU partners, and I wanted to share a little bit of context about each of these as well. So SFU Library has more than 30 years of leadership in advancing open scholarship practices, including open access, open data, and open education. Some examples of work happening through the library include the SFU Open Access Policy, which was endorsed by SFU Senate in 2017. We have a research repository for SFU scholarly outputs. Our digital scholarship team provides tools, training, and support for open access publishing, including navigating publishing options, financial support for open access publishing through memberships and agreements, and support for creating open access journals using PKP's open journal systems. We also have a digital humanities innovation lab, a data services team that provides support for data management and open data, an advocacy for open educational resources, and a community scholars program, which connects nonprofit staff with academic resources and librarian support. These new open scholarship courses mark an exciting development in the library as librarians are moving into the more formal role of providing instruction at the university. This is part of a new direction happening in other parts of the library where librarians are also teaching for-credit information literacy courses. So we're really excited to be involved in this. The SFU Master of Publishing program is Canada's only Master of Publishing degree, offering a unique blend of academic research and hands-on industry experience. In 2025, they're launching 3 new program streams, and one of these is the Scholarly Communications stream, of which these 3 courses are a part. This stream is being led by Dr. Juan Pablo Alperin, who we'll hear from in a moment. And the courses are part of a larger shift towards the program offering more part-time, hybrid, and online learning options to provide more flexibility to students in the program, as well as learners around the world to gain new skills in publishing. And the courses leverage the scholarly communications expertise of the research faculty in the publishing program. And finally, the Public Knowledge Project, or PKP. This is a software development and research facility at SFU. We conduct research into issues impacting scholarly communication and develop free and open source software towards a more diverse, inclusive, and accessible model for scholarly publishing. PKP is best known for developing open journal systems, which some of you may have heard of or even used. This is the world's most widely used journal management and publishing system. PKP has also always maintained a series of open educational resources to help our software users build their knowledge and enhance their practices. For example, we offer PKP School, which is a set of online self-paced courses for users to learn our software and develop their skills. The new open publishing courses mark the first time that we've participated in formalized course delivery, and we're thrilled that the materials from these courses will be made openly available, and we look forward to sharing these with the community as well. So a little bit now on the course format and logistics and what you can expect if you choose to enroll. So I've mentioned these are online, asynchronous, and non-credit courses. Registration will happen via SFU Lifelong Learning, and I'll share a link in a moment to where you can go to get the details of the courses and to register. Each course will last approximately 10 weeks throughout a standard university semester. The cost is $930 Canadian, and that translates to approximately $670 US. There is an English language proficiency for these courses. If you're unsure whether your English language skills are sufficient, we recommend you complete a self-assessment tool to confirm that you have the required proficiency. This is something you can do on your own. You're not required to submit it to the university. It's for your own assessment to determine your proficiency for the courses. The tool that we recommend is linked from the course information pages that I'll share in a moment. For technology, you will need a computer with audio and a microphone. You'll need a strong internet connection, and we'll be using the Canvas online learning system for each of the courses. Students can also receive a transcript of their non-credit academic records upon completion of any of the courses. So who can register? I've mentioned before, these courses will be open or are currently open to SFU graduate students through the Master of Publishing program, and most importantly, to all learners around the world who are interested in scholarly communication can register through SFU Lifelong Learning. So this is where we're really inviting folks from our community who are interested and wish to build their skills and expertise in this area. So we're speaking to journal editors, librarians, library students, scholarly communications professionals and practitioners, anyone interested in furthering the knowledge of scholarly communication and open publishing. So I mentioned that registration is available through the SFU Lifelong Learning website. I invite you to visit the website on this page. I've put a URL and a QR code there for you to access it, and we'll put the URL in the chat as well. This will take you to a blog post with more detailed information about each of the courses. You can click on the details to see the course pages, and then within that, you'll see the link to register through Lifelong Learning. We do have discounts available for a limited number of participants who are facing financial constraints, especially if you do not have institutional support for attending, or those from underrepresented regions. If you're interested in applying for one of these discounts, please contact us. The email is in the blog post provided, and I'll also share it on the next slide. So with that, here is the email address. We'll also put this in the chat. So after the webinar, if you still have questions or if you'd like to contact us to have a further conversation, please feel free to reach out via this email. And now I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to our first course instructor who'll be presenting. We'll hear from Dr. Juan Pablo Alperin, who, as I mentioned, is Associate Professor of Publishing at SFU, Co-Director of the Skullcom Lab, and Scientific Director of PKP, and he'll be talking to us about Pub 611, making knowledge public.
Great. Thank you, Kate, for setting us up and providing sort of the larger context. So just confirming you can see my slides. That should be coming through okay. Great.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm excited to offer this course out to, I've been teaching this class actually for the last few years at the university, but I'm really, really excited to be able to open it up to people from outside of the university. Really is a course that it was actually born out of. Some years ago, I had an opportunity for creating, I had some funding to create a public lecture series combined with a course, and I was allowed to do it on whatever I wanted. And this was sort of like, what are the things that I want to teach the most about and talk the most about and spend time thinking about? And I came up with what was the precursor to this course, but on a lecture series called Making Knowledge Public. So it really kind of captures the thing that I'm most excited about and that I like to sort of spend a lot of my time and energy on. So it really is a treat to get to be part of my job, to be able to invent courses like this. And so I say all of that because I think that excitement and enthusiasm that I have for the topic is something that has come through in the way that I teach the class, and something that students, I think, have appreciated, that there is, this is really content that I'm quite passionate about. So let me talk a little bit about what the course is really about. I mean, the title sort of gives us the first hint of it, but it really is about actually three sort of very interconnected things. One is, as the title suggests, it's about the different ways in which knowledge, that in particular knowledge, is created at universities. And so important, it's not all of the knowledge of the world, but actually the things that happen primarily at universities and research knowledge make their way out into society. It's really about thinking about what is the connection between the research that gets done at universities and then everything that is in the outside, in the world outside of the universities. It is simultaneously, of course, where we turn a lot of attention and look at the diminishing attention placed on serving this public, I suppose to say mission, not missing, the public mission of the universities, right? So the universities were supposed to be institutions that are creating knowledge for society and are supposed to play a public mission in sort of serving society in that way. But it's important for us to think about and pay attention to the fact that this public mission and this role of actually serving the public in more direct ways, it really receives diminishing attention these days. And then the third is about some of the challenges and barriers. There's actually, even though it receives diminishing attention and this public-oriented work is often not something that is given focus or is even rewarded, there are still a lot of people working within universities that are doing kind of publicly oriented work and work that is intended to have their knowledge be out there in the world and serving that public. But what are the challenges and barriers that exist for those people? And so what are the things that prevent them? And there's important to remain optimistic and to notice the fact that this kind of work happens all the time, but it happens that people need to do it despite some real challenging barriers of doing that. So that's sort of the big picture. And so the question that I have to always answer in the first kind of week of the class, because I teach it within the publishing program. Kate gave some nice context about the Masters of Publishing program, where I'm a faculty member and where I teach. And the course is part of that larger program that's about the publishing world, and is now part of this series that is intended to be about open publishing, right? And about scholarly publishing in various forms. So why is it that this course fits in? What is it that you will learn that, and part of the course is about teaching the connection between the things that academic publishing does and how much it actually defines so much of what happens at universities. So being able to understand the role of universities in serving the public and the connection to scholarly publishing is a core part of this course. And I think in that sense, it is kind of essential learning for anyone that wants to be involved in any aspect of the scholarly publishing ecosystem, whether you are interested in being an editor or whether you're building tools to support this system, to understand the larger context of where does scholarly publishing fit in to what happens at universities, how does it affect the work, and how does it actually shape a lot of the structures of universities that are even shaped around the scholarly publishing activities. So those are things that we'll talk a lot about in the class, and it's about really having that larger contextual understanding. We're going to be sort of learning. So the argument a little bit is that learning about scholarly publishing, especially this open publishing and open access and all of these things that are kind of imbued through these three courses, I think requires, or at least is made easier by learning about how universities work and function and their relationship to that publishing world. You can't understand the incentives of people creating that scholarly content if you don't understand the environments in which and the workplace in which they're embedded. So more concretely, what are we? These are sort of like going through, not week by week. I didn't put every single week into some of these slides, but the next few slides, I'll sort of talk about some of the different sort of weekly themes of what we're going to be talking about in the class. First is kind of understanding, again, it's more about getting the larger, bigger picture. It's defining the public's right to know what is known, right? And this is kind of a little bit about like what is open access. And so most of you have some kind of a sense, I imagine, if you're here, of what open access is. It's about the opening of scholarship and making it available to the public. But the question that I think important that we all make sure we ask ourselves and have a good answer to is also why open access. And there's a lot of different reasons and motivations behind open access. But for me, the public's right to know what is known, that the knowledge that we create as a community and as a society is actually everybody's right to be available. And that public availability of the work is an essential component. So that's a little bit that, again, the setting the stage. That when we start thinking about that, we need to ask ourselves and look at the business of scholarly publishing and ask ourselves the question, why is sharing research a business? Every other aspect of the research world is something that we do as a public good. We fund it with public funds. We put it into public universities. We don't expect any of those things to operate in a revenue generating way or in a cost neutral way to the part of the research process. So we need to understand a little bit the business of scholarly publishing so that we can understand why is it that this is something that we have put out as a separate component that operates as a business, because it's going to be essential for understanding how it functions and the kind of adverse effects that come with having scholarly publishing operate as a business. And then the important, this I've mentioned already a bunch of times, talking about the public mission of universities. And so we're going to talk and define what that is and what that really means. And at the heart of that question of what the public mission of universities is the question of whether education is a public good, something that we invest in as a society because we expect there to be a public benefit, or is it a private good, something that an individual acquires for themselves to make advancements in their life to improve their position and their lot in life. So these are all kind of the beginning part of the course. Is really all about understanding the context that we're operating in. Then we get into like the meat of the course, like the subject of the title, which is the different ways in which research makes its way out into academia. So we'll have already talked about open access as one form, but we also will talk about the public's understanding of science. How does the public come across research? Most commonly is through the media, right? A research that gets communicated in the media. But it's not just about the forms of science communication, but also how does the public come to understand what science is, what its role is, and like how does it work? So there's a lot of questions there around this is probably the main form of how people get engaged in science and come to understand what science is. And by science, I mean science and scholarship. We'll also have topics on citizen and community science. That's when the public is kind of engaged with the research in participating in it in some way. And then the thing about how research makes its way into policy and research and the question about evidence-based policymaking. So policy making that uses research. And more cynical or perhaps a different perspectives, we'll come to learn that a lot of the time it's policy-based evidence, right? We have a policy and we find the research to inform that. And then we'll zoom out again and look at the larger context around as we make research open and we share it out in public, we get the question around the global participation in science. Are others out there doing it better? Are there some parts of the world that are doing this kind of work better? Does making research open actually lead to more diverse and equitable publishing? What does it mean when research is being sort of actively shared and who gets to participate? And then we will end, and this is always, some of the course can be a little bit of a downer, but we end on a very positive note that there's some things that are really happening and changing in how we do and share research and make it public and share it more broadly that are pretty exciting and that give us lots of reasons to be optimistic. We'll work week to week by sharing readings and videos that will be read each week. We'll use social annotations for interacting with one another. And so since we're going to be doing everything asynchronously, we're going to be using online annotations and being able to talk to each other in the comments of the very readings that we're doing and answering questions for each other and getting to know each other in that way. There'll be two, and I put in quotes, big assignments. There's sort of two assignments that have some bigger things to turn in. One is a piece of science communication work, and the other one is to do an op-ed, an editorial, where at the end of the course, you should have formed an opinion about all of these things. And you should be able to try to communicate publicly as scholars that are trying to do publicly oriented work should do in that kind of public forum and be able to share some of your opinions about the things we've learned in the course in a kind of public venue. And then we'll have a few small assignments week to week. And I really put actually quite small. These are kind of little, take a few minutes to do each week. And it's just a way of remaining engaged and having things that we can share with one another. These things will all be sort of sorted out ahead of the class starting in January. Just wanted to show you what I mean by the online annotations, and with that, I'll wrap up. And this is sort of like, we'll take a reading from something that's online. We'll use the tool hypothesis that allows us to kind of highlight and leave comments in the margins, and importantly, allows us to reply to one another in the margins. And so everyone that's registered in the class will be part of a group that will be able to have these conversations where you leave comments on the readings that we're doing and then have a chance to interact with one another and with me as the course goes on. I'll leave it there. There's my contact if people have sort of specific questions that they want to reach out about ahead of the course, if you're thinking about whether this is the right course for you, and if you have anything that you want to check in, you can email the general email address that Kate put up at the beginning. But if there are questions specifically about this course, I'm happy to receive them at my email there. Thanks.
Great. Thanks so much, Juan. So now I'm going to turn things over to Allison Moore, who's the course instructor for Pub 604, Technologies and Infrastructure for Academic Publishing. And Allie is Digital Scholarship Librarian at SFU Library. Allie, go ahead and share your screen if you'd like.
Perfect. Thanks, Kate. Yeah, I have some slides. Hopefully those are looking okay and you can see the normal slide version.
They look great.
Great. Awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm Allie Moore. I'm a digital scholarship librarian at SFU, and I'll be sharing a bit today about what you can expect if you enroll in Publishing 604, which is focused on the technologies and infrastructure for academic publishing. And I think you'll see as we kind of move through this webinar that we are kind of creating a bit of a kind of funnel here for you, going down from kind of the most broad concepts that Juan just chatted about to my course, which I really see as a bridge between this one and the one that Jen is going to be talking about later. So yeah, happy to kind of dive into this. And I thought it would be useful just to give you a sense of who I am, because as Kate mentioned, this is a new thing that we're doing at SFU Library, having librarians teach courses. And I feel that my role at SFU Library is really connected to a lot of the topics that we're going to be covering in this course. But just so that you have a sense of what a librarian does and my background, I have a master's degree in library science from McGill University. I also have a BA in political science and English Lit. So that's kind of my sort of disciplinary background. And I've held a lot of different roles at the library since joining it over the last decade. So I currently work supporting, scholarly communications and a lot of the things that come with that. But I've also worked in digital publishing, in our Digital Humanities Innovation Lab, and in our Knowledge Mobilization Hub. So all kind of areas really deeply connected to scholarly publishing, the distribution of scholarly knowledge, and scholarly sharing. I'm also an active researcher, so you can see my research areas kind of up on the slide there. My current project is looking at the ways that knowledge mobilization activities are captured and shared in academic CVs and how they're evaluated when that happens. We're doing a scoping review there and excited to share more about that. And then I'm also engaged in academic service. So I sit on our Valuing and Measuring Scholarly Impact Working Group on the Canadian Institute for Studies in Publishing, and I'm a member of the Association of Research Libraries Engaged Scholarship and Societal Impact Research Group. So that's kind of a bit about me. In my current role at the library and my kind of professional practice, I work with, graduate students, faculty members, basically any researcher who's interested in learning more about how to share their work. So navigating the publishing process, choosing a journal, making sure that the research is visible and shared and distributed, and that they're getting kind of credit and recognition for that. And I really feel that that ties very nicely into all the themes and all the things that we're going to be addressing in this course. Okay. So in Publishing 604, we're going to kind of focus on these sort of four main topics. We're going to explore the technologies and infrastructures that are necessary to support the publishing, discovery, preservation, and linking of scholarship. So all the kind of different things that are there. And we're going to take a really hands-on approach to learn about the tools that create the scholarly record. And if you're wondering kind of what the scholarly record is, we'll be diving into that concept as well. But really, we want to better understand the kind of growing landscape of all the different technologies, systems, structures, things that are in place that are really essential to make scholarly publishing findable, shareable, citable, readable, preservable online. We're going to talk about a wide variety of the aspects of academic publishing, including content management systems, metadata standards, digital preservation techniques, open access platforms, and the role of libraries and repositories. So there's really a lot of different kind of angles that we're going to be taking to this. And I hope later on I'll be talking about some of the folks who might be interested in taking the class. And there's a lot of kind of things here for a variety of different folks. And we're also really going to focus on the ways that open source technologies are supporting this work. So I think it will come as no surprise that there's a number of commercial actors in this space, and we will be talking about and sort of acknowledging those, but recognizing when, open source technologies are also an option or potentially actually a superior option for folks that are doing work in this space. So, what are you actually going to learn in this course? So, after you are enrolled in Publishing 604, after completing the course, you'll have some kind of key learning. So, you're going to be able to explain the key technologies and infrastructures that support scholarly publishing and discovery. You'll be able to use content management systems to organize, publish, and maintain content. You'll be able to apply metadata standards to improve the discoverability and interoperability of scholarly works. You'll be able to implement digital preservation strategies to ensure long-term access to research outputs. Evaluate the roles of libraries, repositories, and open access platforms in shaping the scholarly record. And finally, assess and apply open source tools and services for academic publishing. So those are all the kind of topics that we're going to be learning and discussing. And what does this actually kind of look like in practice? These are the sort of main topics that we're going to be focusing in on in this class. And there's sort of a few kind of key themes here. So we're going to be starting off, sort of jumping off from where Juan's course was engaging. We're going to talk about an introduction to academic publishing, including focusing in on what open access publishing is. So what's going on in this space? Who are the kind of main actors? What are their interests in this space? And then we'll sort of shift gears and focus in a little bit more on metadata standards, persistent identifiers, content management systems. So what are those kind of really underlying systems and structures and tools that are in place here that help make kind of the scholarly record possible? We'll then dive into a conversation about research sharing. So thinking about preprints, repositories and archives, linking and citation practices, research discovery tools, and the integration and interoperability of all of those pieces. So how are they working together to make sure that research that is published and shared is findable? How does something like a scholarly profile work? Why is it that you're able to kind of go and see, why a particular article or paper has been cited, who it's been cited by? All of those things rely on a variety of kind of important and often sort of overlooked pieces of scholarly infrastructure. And then finally, we'll wrap things up by diving into some of the future trends in academic publishing. So things like AI, things like research integrity and transparency, etc. So what this will actually look like week to week is we're going to engage in a variety of activities together. So we are going to be jumping into a number of really essential and exciting readings on this topic. Going beyond kind of scholarly and peer-reviewed literature, a lot of the really important kind of context and information here comes from things like documentation about different tools that we're going to be discussing. So kind of getting beyond just sort of thinking about the way that scholars are talking about this to also the way that the community is engaging with and doing this work. You'll get a chance to hear from me in recorded lectures, and we'll have, opportunity to kind of connect in a variety of class discussions and forums. I also want to make sure that you hear from folks who are working in this space. There are so many really wonderful kind of different folks working in this space. So people who are in editorial roles, those working as developers, folks working at professional associations that are building kind of some of this key infrastructure. So really making sure that I'm bringing those folks in and you're getting to hear from them as well. We're also going to do some hands-on exploration of different pieces of technology. So you'll get a chance to, do a deep dive into a particular tool and share that back with your classmates and get a chance to see what everybody else is excited about and their kind of, highlights of what pieces of technology are about and why they work. And then we'll get a chance to kind of dive into some project work. Like Juan was saying, none of these assignments are going to be huge or particularly onerous, and they're really going to offer you a chance to kind of combine the sort of theory and practice in this space in order to have something that you'll be able to walk away with. So that's what we will be doing in the class. And finally, I just wanted to wrap up by sort of suggesting who might be interested in taking this class. So I really kind of see there being kind of three key audiences here. The first is folks who are in that Master of Publishing program and potentially all graduate students. So folks who are getting started with the research and publishing process who want to better understand the scholarly publishing ecosystem. And then certainly, myself as a librarian, I can absolutely see the value here for librarians and other folks, library school students who really want to dig deeper into the systems and structures that connect our work. We're not always taught these things in library school, so this is a really unique opportunity to kind of spend some time and really get that foundational skills kind of early on. In terms of publishing and editorial staff, if you're wanting to learn more about the importance and relevance of some of these kind of key technologies and infrastructures, why they matter, and kind of the benefits for you and your work, we're absolutely going to be addressing that here. And then finally, anybody who wants to kind of spend some time exploring what it means to kind of create, maintain, and preserve the scholarly record. That's really kind of the core issue in this course that we're going to be spending time on. And I think it's a question that has a number of intersections with folks in the research and scholarly space. So with that, I just wanted to say thanks. I'm really looking forward to meeting many of you, and feel free to send me an email, get in touch if you have any questions about the class. And I think with that, I will turn things over back to Kate.
Wonderful. Thanks, Ali. Yes, so I'll go ahead and turn us right over to Jennifer Zerkee, who is the instructor for Pub 603, Journal Management and Editing, and Jen is Copyright Specialist at SFU Library.
Great. Thanks very much, Kate. Is that working? Slides?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Hi, everyone. Okay, so I will start by saying, because my course starts later than the other two, I do have fewer sort of concrete details to share with you. I'm a little earlier in the sort of planning process. But I thought what might be really helpful is to give you an idea today of who I am, where I'm coming from, and what I'm thinking about as I put this course together. So I have been at SFU Library almost 15 years, and I have held this copyright role for 12. So what I do in this role is I help researchers, instructors, students, and staff wherever copyright comes up in their work. And this often includes working with academic authors to help them understand an author's rights when they publish, what happens when they transfer copyright, what their rights are to use their own work again after it's published. And of course, open access comes into that a lot because it increases everyone's options for using the work after it's published. I provide support around applying and understanding Creative Commons licenses, which could be in the context of publishing open access articles, creating open educational resources, or finding and using openly licensed images or other material that can be used in teaching or research or publishing. I've been involved with Creative Commons in a few different ways, including completing their Certificate for Librarians program a few years ago. I've collaborated on projects and reports and other outputs with other CC members, and I've attended and presented at a number of different CC Global Summits. So I have quite a background in sort of interpreting and applying those licenses and the role that they play in making research and other materials open. So I've been teaching faculty, students, and librarians at SFU and elsewhere about copyright and related issues for as long as I've held this position. Like Ali, I have not taught a full credit course before. Librarians aren't new to this role at SFU, but I do bring quite a few years of teaching experience just in different formats. I've taught grad students about the publishing process, their rights as authors, often in collaboration with Ali, actually. I've worked with instructors integrating open course journals as a course project and teaching CC licenses to their students. So a lot of my teaching has been from the author's perspective, going through the publishing process, and I'm actually really looking forward to flipping that for this course and exploring the roles associated with publishing and managing a journal while keeping authors' needs in mind. So I see this course as an extension of and an expansion of the teaching that I've been doing for a number of years now. And then most of my own research and publishing work has been related to copyright, copyright administration in higher education, copyright legislation reform, advocacy by libraries on behalf of user rights. And then another area that I've published and presented about quite a bit is open access, open educational resources, and often in really practical ways, talking about how we support those things at SFU and what the library does to enable researchers to publish openly and share their work openly. Okay, so like Juan mentioned earlier, publishing and publishing in journals specifically has become so fundamental to research and to the entire academic endeavor in many disciplines that journals have proliferated. And the quality, not necessarily of the published research itself, but of the way journals are run can really vary. And there are certainly bad actors out there, but I think there are also a lot of journals that want to do well and could be doing better. So what I want to do in this course is give you the skills and the tools and the background, the information to be able to set up and run not just a successful journal, but an ethical and high integrity journal that is equipped to support authors with an efficient and transparent process, and also be prepared to address any issues that might arise. And we will definitely focus on open access publishing to support some of those goals and values about sharing knowledge with communities and working more publicly. So we will dig into the specifics of establishing, running, and publishing a journal, from defining the subject and scope of the journal to establishing editorial roles and the manager's role, developing policies and procedures that set you up for success, selecting an approach to peer review, promoting the journal, and just managing that entire publishing process from submission to publication. We are going to obviously focus on the roles of editors and managers in these processes, of course, that's the name of the course, but then broader topics like publication ethics, potential roles of AI, looking at open access in a variety of ways will sort of go beyond the practical tasks for each role, and into the larger scholarly publishing conversations and the considerations that editors and managers need to be aware of and ready to kind of respond to in the current scholarly communications landscape. So content will include readings, both academic and otherwise, like Ali was saying. We'll be drawing on a variety of different sources, presentations by guest speakers, and definitely looking at a wide range of journals, examples of their approaches, their documentation, how do they do things, how do they respond to things. So that's kind of the key material that we'll be using week to week. So because my background is in copyright education, I obviously have a particular interest in author rights and publishing agreements, open access, Creative Commons licenses, and how all of those things play into publishing processes. And honestly, policy and guidelines kind of in general, I think these are really important and a sometimes overlooked fundamental part of establishing a journal. So policies help to clarify and express the journal's values and priorities. They provide the basis for that journal's activities or responses to different situations that might come up. And documentation is also really important for transparency, right? Making it clear to authors what is expected of them and what they can expect from the journal as they cross paths with editors, managers, peer reviewers, and so on through that whole publishing process. Documentation also allows for continuity when people move on or new people join the journal's team. So there are some, what I have on the slide here is just some of the different types of policies and other documentation that we might look at. We are also going to spend some time drafting this kind of documentation and thinking about what goes into a good and useful policy of different types. And this connects quite closely with publication ethics, which is another sort of overriding theme for this course. We will look at real world examples of issues that can arise with publishing. So we'll be looking at Retraction Watch or case studies done by the Committee on Publication Ethics. And we'll use those to think through the kinds of policies and procedures a journal can put in place to both try to prevent problems from arising, but also to help you respond to them when they do come up, to have sort of scripts and procedures in place when problems do arise. So those are kind of just two of the topics, but sort of overarching ones that we'll be getting into in Pub 603. But I hope you can see that a main goal of mine for this course is that the content, the assignments, the activities will really give you hands-on experience with many aspects of establishing and managing a journal so that you can take those skills forward into your academic activities or your future work. We will be building journal documentation, like I mentioned. We will be doing some peer reviewing of each other's work and engaging in discussions about a wide range of publishing topics. So this is pretty similar to what others have said, but journal management and editing will be useful for anyone involved in or interested in creating, managing, or editing a journal. It will be useful for academic authors wanting to gain a deeper understanding of what goes on behind the scenes when they publish, or for academics interested in taking on an editorial role or getting into some of those other roles with a journal. And of course, librarians and others who support researchers through that publishing process will find it useful as well. So I'm going to leave it at that. Again, my contact info is there, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jen. And thanks very much to Famara, who's dropping these contact emails into the chat, as well as other links that we're sharing on the slides. So we do have 15 minutes now for Q&A, and we do have one question, which is a great one, I think, to start off with. So I'll go ahead with that. And then if folks have other questions, please feel free, either in the chat or the Q&A, to go ahead and post your questions. So the question we have is, will the program engage with how to measure and demonstrate the value of open access across multiple dimensions? So for example, value to society, value to academic institutions, etc. And I'll leave this open for any of our instructors, and maybe Juan, you'd like to.
Yeah, I'm happy to take that one. That question really is at the heart of the Making Knowledge Public course. So I'll say we'll answer that question in one at one level. We'll talk about it in the way that open access is valued in terms of where does it fit into we'll have some readings around review, tenure, and promotion and research assessment. I do have normally, which I didn't highlight in my summary, but I do normally do a week on citation and metrics and looking at how those work because of the way what they end up emphasizing, which kind of activities and which kind of work ends up being valued by those citation metrics, which are a core part of research assessment today, despite lots of efforts to try to change it. We'll talk about the efforts to try to reform research assessment. So that is a part of my of the course. We won't answer it in the sense of getting into like we would need an entire course to look at the details of like actually how do you do those research assessments and learning how to like sort of download the publications and the metrics or looking at citation databases. I think you'll learn about them a little bit in my class. You learn a little bit about the databases and the sources of this data from Ali's course on the infrastructures. So you're going to get sort of the pieces and the understanding of how that all works throughout the courses. So for me, the bigger kind of picture around how it fits in, from Ali, like the data sources that are used for these kinds of assessments. And I think that if these courses are successful, we're going to be looking to add additional courses as time goes on. And I would already envision that a course more specifically at doing those kinds of things would require an entire semester with all of the courses around it. But you're certainly going to get a good understanding of the place of open access in research assessment and the main data sources and tools and metrics that are used that end up preferring certain kinds of scholarship over others. And to the extent that open access is featuring in those, but also to the extent that that and other forms of public scholarship are still end up getting downplayed or end up getting undervalued, I would argue. And I will argue in my course because it certainly is an opinionated course.
I can maybe just add to that, which is to say, like, absolutely, we're going to be thinking about this from that perspective of like all the kind of different data sources that go into play here. But then also, very briefly touching on, the reasons why like open access publications typically get higher citations and things like that. So thinking about a bit of those kind of indicators of, why, a researcher might want to make their research openly available and why we might want to use open infrastructure to make these things possible and what that kind of affords. So yeah, excited that this question came through because I think it really is a great sort of topic and question to be thinking about if you're thinking about taking these classes.
Great, thank you both. So we don't have any more questions in the queue right now, so I will hang on a moment in case folks would like to ask more. In the meantime, I would like to ask our instructors a question. I mentioned in my introduction that we plan to share a lot of the course materials openly as open educational resources. I wonder if any of you would like to share a little bit about what you see as what folks can expect from those course materials that will be openly available in terms of what types of materials will be coming, but also if you have thoughts on why you think folks would benefit from attending the courses and getting that in-person engagement and connection with you and with the other students, in addition to the materials being made openly available.
I don't know if either of you want to go first.
Yeah, maybe I'll jump in. Yeah, I'll jump in on this one. Yeah, I think in my course in particular, thinking through sort of the policies and the that documentation really underlies sort of the values and the priorities for your journal. And I think getting some feedback on those things as you develop them can be really helpful. And so that's one area where like I want to bring peer review into it. So we are getting some direct feedback as we're thinking through, do you decide to make a journal open access? And if you do, what approach do you use? Or what approach to peer review are you going to incorporate, right? So being able to bounce ideas off each other and talk through your thought process in making those kinds of decisions, I think is a lot, is really helpful compared to trying to do that on your own and just kind of, make decisions on your own independently.
I can also say that I'm really excited about the fact that this course is open to MPub students and folks coming in through the lifelong learning stream, because I think we're going to have really interesting class discussions. Folks are going to be coming at these topics from a really wide variety of ways. If you are currently in library school, you're going to have kind of a librarian lens to thinking about technologies and infrastructure, and that is going to be different than if you are somebody who is a scholar or working in the editorial space. And so to me, that's where a lot of the value comes from, is being able to be in class and be in dialogue with other students, get a chance to kind of hear from them, and try some of these things out. Certainly, we will be trying to make as many of the kind of course materials public as possible so that others can learn from it as well. But getting a chance to try things out in that space, you're not necessarily going to have to make your own outputs public right away if that's not comfortable for you. So this really offers you kind of a sandbox opportunity to dive into some of these things without necessarily going public right away. Yeah.
And I'll add for mine, there's, the materials are mostly I'm assigning all things to read that are openly available, and we'll have the curated list from the syllabus. So certainly people could just take that content and kind of read it on their own. But the hypothesis group where we're going to be able to interact with one another, and where I'll be sort of priming some of those like questions for people to be thinking about as they read, and the discussions that are going to come together is similar to what Ali was just saying around we're going to get these different perspectives from around the world asking these questions. And that opportunity to engage is kind of where the co-learning happens, right? Like learning is something that we tend to do together. We've done have quite a bit of experience using hypothesis, and we've even done some research on the kind of knowledge creation that happens and the knowledge construction that happens in those annotations, in the interactions, in asking questions, if you're asking questions in those annotations, but also in answering questions and in reading them, as well as people will enhance those readings with definitions or with additional resources that they're linking to. And that kind of takes a different turn every time I teach the course, depending on who's in the room and how we manage to build up on it. I mean, secondly, it's obviously that it's being part of a course kind of motivates you to actually move through it and do the work and do the thinking. And the assignments are going to be an opportunity to try to reflect that thinking and kind of test your understanding. I find often we feel like we read something and that we've understood its implications, but it's only when we try to use that knowledge in some tangible way and put it into writing that we can kind of check our understanding and also push and really take our understanding a little bit further. So that is a little bit the hope is what you get from a course, but in keeping with our philosophy, both like in the publishing program at PKP and our personal ethos, I think all of us instructors, is that the goal is to make all of these materials available for people to be able to move through this content. And we want people to be able to just learn these things and support that learning. But there is a lot of value, I think, that comes, and we've tried to hopefully make it accessible enough that people can take these courses and then move through them in a timely way with the support of the instructors and of the peers, the rest of the learners that are in the community. And we think that that's something that will be of service to anyone that is trying to dip into these topics.
Wonderful. Thank you to all three of you for those answers. We do have another question in the Q&A, which I think is a really good one as well. Will the synchronous elements, so for example, discussions, which are so valuable, be scheduled such that students who are employed can participate?
Kate, I think you could probably
I can
take this
absolutely
one,
answer this.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave it up to the instructors as well. But yeah, so the idea is that the courses are actually entirely asynchronous beyond the assignment deadlines that will happen throughout the term. And you'll be given all those deadlines at the start of the term. So in fact, all of the discussions will happen asynchronously. So you'll be able to jump in when you're available on your own schedule. That accommodates folks with different schedules, things going on in their lives in different time zones. And so you'll be able to see the discussion question and respond when you have a moment, see what other students have said and jump back in and respond to them and so on. So in fact, my understanding is, and again, the instructors can confirm there will not be synchronous elements. If there are, for example, if there's an option to jump onto a live call, that will be recorded and made optional, understanding that not everyone will necessarily be available at the same time.
Yeah, you got that, okay. The idea is to maximize accessibility to these courses in every way that we are able to, right? So then the idea is here. It's not just people working, like you have your schedules that are fixed and everyone has very different kind of life schedules, but we're looking about offering these courses to anyone anywhere in the world. And so that means that your working hours are going to be someone else's evenings, or they might be someone else's, middle of the night. And so it is to have nothing that is required where you need to be on at a certain time, but you will need to keep, it is work that happens during a fixed period. And so for my class in particular, we're going to have these readings, and there's going to be a deadline by which you need to have done the readings and left your annotations, because we can't do those entirely at different times. Otherwise, we don't see each other's discussions if people are coming at them. But you know that during that week, these are the readings that you're needing to be doing and the places you need to have that discussion. So that keeps us all on track and moving together, but everyone is doing it at whatever time of day or day of the week that they can, keeping with that deadline. Let's say by Tuesdays at whatever time, we need to have done the readings and left your discussion points. But anytime between the previous Tuesday and that one, then you're going to need to have done the work. And so that, I think, affords the maximum flexibilities for people's schedules and time zones.
And maybe just to sort of say yes to all of those things. And also it is a priority for me to make sure that if someone is really wanting to have a face-to-face conversation with me, that I can make myself available. And so, you know, we can work through time zones and other considerations for folks to make sure that if that is something that you're, you know, wanting to get some clarification or ask a question about assignments, or just, you know, be able to spend a little bit of time talking through some feedback that I've given you on something, you know, being able to book either an appointment or joining me in office hours, that's something that we'll be able to do. Yeah.
And I'll just second all of that as well. And yeah, office hours are part of my plan too, to offer different ways to be able to connect for sure.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So with that, we are almost out of time. I want to thank our 3 course instructors so much for taking the time today to talk about the 3 courses. I hope folks are coming away with a really good sense of what these courses offer, both individually and as if you choose to take them together as a series, how they complement each other, how you could come away with a really broad understanding of scholarly communication, all the way from very broad theory down to the very practical elements of publishing. So it's been great hearing from all of you today. We will circulate the recording with everyone who registered. And thank you again, Famir, for once again sharing that link to the blog post that has all the details about the 3 courses and how to register, and some of the logistics are detailed there as well. So again, please do reach out if you'd like to discuss further, if you have questions. And otherwise, thanks very much, everyone, for your participation today.